Hi everyone, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a 3D Cheshire Cat cake. We're going to be starting with two rectangular cakes, one on top of the other, and we're going to be carving them into the shape of a cat, starting with cutting off the corners and highlighting the back part of the cat, which is higher than the front. Also rounding off the corner because the cat's body doesn't have any angles. I added the two cake corners that I cut off to the back of the cat to make it even higher, and I'm rounding off all of the edges, and I added a few more cake scraps to that area and I round them off as well. Now these next two pieces are added to create a smoother transition between what is now the back and the front. This is carving out the hands, which he's kind of leaning on in the front. Now for the tail, this is a little trick that I learned from a colleague. If you crumb the cake scraps, mix them with a little water, you get kind of a cake dough that you can shape. And it tastes just the same, and it's great for some purposes. It's easier to shape and you can cut into it just like regular cake. So next comes the chocolate ganache, and what you can see here is the crumb coat. I cover it all up very well and I let it sit for a little while, and then I do the next coat, which you'll see later. I do the same for the tail, first a crumb coat and then another coat which can be smoothed out more easily, and you can see it here. So after covering the cake in ganache, I rolled out some ready-made purple fondant, which I added some blue and red gel coloring to just to get the color a little bit stronger. I made sure the cake was a little wet and covered it in fondant, making sure that it sticks to the sides, all the way to the bottom. You can use the size of your hands to really tuck it in all the way. And once you've done that, you can grab a knife and remove the excess fondant. When you get close to the cake itself, make sure you're not cutting too close to the cake, and use your knife to tuck the fondant in under the cake. We don't want to see any fondant edges. This should be well under the cat. Now I did the same thing for the tail. I rolled out some purple fondant, the same color, made sure the tail was wet and covered it in fondant, using my fingers to make sure that it sticks all the way to the bottom, and using my knife to cut close to the cake and tuck in the edges, making sure that it goes all the way down. So the Cheshire Cat has stripes, and I used some pink fondant and added blue, red, and a little bit of brown gel coloring to get to this darker color. I used a ribbon cutter to make sure the stripes are the same width and attach them to the cake with some water. Now you want to apply just a little bit of water where you'd want the stripes to stick. Apply them, press down on them with your fingers, and cut the edges off with a knife. For the rest of the body, you do the exact same thing. Use water, apply the stripes, cut the edges with a knife. The tail has the same colored stripes on it, except they're a little thinner, so I adjusted my ribbon cutter to cut thinner ribbons and attach them to the tail with some water, making sure to space them out evenly. The hands have thinner stripes on them, but the method is exactly the same. Use a ribbon cutter and attach them with a little bit of water. If you look in pictures, you'll see that the tip of the tail has a different color to it. So I rolled out some pink fondant, cut one straight edge out, and attached it to the tip right after the last stripe. So for the top part of the face, I used a darker shade of the stripes by adding even more blue, red, and brown gel coloring. I created this semicircle shape and used a knife to cut out the jumpy strands of hair he has on the top and sides of his head. After cutting out their general shape, which is a bit more straight on top and wavy on the sides, I used my fingers to make them a little pointier and repeated this process for the other side of the face. The bottom part of the face is a lighter shade of pink, and it's shaped a little bit like a heart. So I created that shape using a knife and smoothed out the corners of the fondant using my fingers. I used a sculpting tool to create the lines under the nose and those marking the smile. And then, using a knife, I removed some of the fondant out of where the mouth is, since the inside of the mouth is a darker shade of purple. So I rolled out some fondant, placed it over the mouth to get the correct size, and then cut out a matching piece. This piece will later on be glued to the inside of the mouth using some water. As you can see, I'm placing it in here and using the sculpting tool to recreate the lines. I used light purple fondant to make the tongue and removed a small piece of the inside of the mouth to place the tongue inside so that it would look like it's coming from inside of the mouth. I did the same thing for the teeth. First of all, I cut them out of white fondant, making sure to cut out the correct shape. And if you want, you can create a template using a picture beforehand. Once I was satisfied with the shape, I used a sculpting tool to mark the teeth, and I started all the way at the top and went almost all the way down to the bottom. Now, to place the teeth, I removed a part of the dark shade of the mouth and smoothed out the fondant under it so that the teeth can go directly under the top lip and over the dark shade, marking the inside of the mouth. And at this point, I use the sculpting tool to remark the teeth and make sure that the lines are visible. I used the same tool to create the whiskers and the little dots in between. And for the nose, I used dark red fondant and indented the nostrils with the same tool on the other end. I used some water to attach the two pieces of the face. And for the eyes, I used yellow fondant, and I created two oval shapes, attached them to the top part of the face where the tops of the eyes are a little bit closer than the bottom. For the pupils, I made two little black circles and used water to attach them to the yellow fondant. I made the palms of his hands out of dark purple fondant, same as the top of the head, where essentially they're just oval shapes that I cut 3 fingers into using a knife and shaped them out using my hands. I created 2 palms, placed them in a crossed position, and attached them to the hands using water, making sure to keep the edges of the palms connecting to the hands straight. Lastly, I created fingernails by making little teardrop shapes out of black fondant and placed them at the tip of each finger. And that's our Cheshire Cat already. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, please hit like and share. You're welcome to subscribe to my channel, and there will be more videos to come. See you next time!